All right, welcome to ACR 170 Heat Load Duct Design. This class will be a little bit different because it doesn't have a lab component like we're used to. So there'll be some time that we're going to be spending doing some computer stuff. A lot of this will be just you working on your own, and then the time that we spend together in class will just be me kind of going through, helping you with any questions you have with your project. So the class is kind of set up like one big large project. The way that we've typically done it in the past is pretty much work on one job. Now we might add a little something else in depending on time, but in the past we had one house that we were designing a heat load and a duct design for, but we go through different methods of doing it. So there's a few different ways to do it. There's some that are a little more intense, a little more hands-on, and then there's others that are using computer software, and then there's some that's using apps. And so what we're going to kind of do through that is to compare our readings and to go through and see what all goes into those. And then, if those apps or those computer software make your job easier and they seem to be pretty reliable, then that may be something you'd want to use, but you still need to kind of know where those numbers come from. And so you will need books that will be required. Manual D, I have this one here. I don't have the Manual J handy, but Manual J is very similar to this. So both of these are available through the bookstore, and they are available through ACA, which is the Air Conditioning Contractors of America. So those are the actual books that you would use in the field if you were doing a heat load and duct design. That's what they're based on. It's what the software is based on. It's what the apps are based on. And so that's where all this stuff's coming from. I'm not going to go into a lot other than just to kind of give you a heads up on how how this is going to work. And so we will only meet like a couple hours a week. We'll meet on Tuesdays, and we will meet in the computer lab. I think we're meeting in 105, which is up front, left-hand computer lab as soon as you walk in. And so that computer lab, we'll be pulling up, whatever programs we're using, be going through the terminologies and why we do this and when we do this and all that good stuff. But there's not a lab, but we may do some stuff in the lab space, or we may go back into another room, and eventually my plan is to do an actual duct layout, even if we're not using actual duct work, to do a sizing to where we would lay out a house, basically. So if you were walking into a house and you were laying out a system, how would you size your duct? How would you come up with a heat load based on, what you're seeing around you? So we may do that and, just kind of see how it goes time-wise. Might have you do your own house even. I've done that in the past, but we'll just kind of see how we get along. Other than that, get your books. If you're going to be working on your own laptop, which I would probably recommend, if you've got a good laptop, just bring it in. It's probably going to be easier for you to just keep working on that. If you save stuff to OneDrive or Google Drive or something, make sure you can access that from the computers at the school if you're going to use those in the computer lab. But a lot of people end up just bringing their laptop in. If you have a flash drive you're putting it on, you can bring that in, plug it into the computer lab as well. But my advice would be to make it as easy on yourself as you can to work on it at home and then to bring it in to school. So whether that means you're using some sort of external drive or OneDrive to where you can access it, you're emailing it to yourself, that's another way to do it. Whatever you're working on, where you are, you can email it to yourself and open it at the school. But if you have a laptop, most people prefer to just bring their laptop in and work on it there. But we do have computers, so just kind of an idea on that. I'm not gonna get into a lot of the details of it, but I guess as far as why you would do this, this isn't something that you're probably going to be required to do right away, and it's not something that maybe a technician is even going to do at all. But it's just good to kind of know how systems are sized, because we're working on stuff. We're going into houses. If you're a service tech, if you're doing install, then this becomes very relevant. If you're running your own business, then you're going to do both. You're going to be doing service and install, and design. So it's something to definitely know how to do. But even as a service tech, if you're walking into a house, you're trying to identify potential problems. one of the things you might look at is duct sizing, and it's probably something that we overlook a lot. It's something that I know I overlook a lot. Is, is this thing set up right? Is the system sized properly for the house? Is the ductwork properly sized? And you're not going to go through every single thing, maybe, but if you could just do a couple of quick measurements, it might give you an indication that maybe there's been certain problems all along, and that's why they've never been able to, have enough air in this one particular room. And so when you're trying to meet the needs of your customer, ductwork is the method that we use to deliver most of our heating and air. Not always, but in this case, it's what we're dealing with: system sizing and duct sizing. So heat load and duct design is sizing the system to where it will get rid of the proper amount of heat. So it's the removal of heat. And then in the wintertime, you've got a winter load where you're adding heat back in. We'll talk about how those are different, how they're the same, how that you have to kind of figure those differently and which ones we go by. And then the duct design, so the duct design is done in a couple of different methods. So you can do a block load, which tells you how big the system needs to be to carry the whole house, and then a room by room load tells you how much each room needs, which then will tell you how big your vents need to be, how big your ductwork needs to be. And so all of those kind of work together. So you have to know a heat load, so you can know how much heat you have to move, how much air you have to move, and then you size your duct to move the right amount of air, and then you size the duct in each room to make sure that each room stays where it's supposed to be. So it all sort of builds on itself. So that's what this whole class will do, is it will just build. And so every week we'll get to a point, and I'll say, okay, we're going to do this, and then we're going to get to a point, and then we'll get to the next point. So if you're looking through Blackboard, I wouldn't work real far ahead, because we're going to be going through this every week, and I'm going to get you to a certain point, and then by the next week, I'll tell you where you need to be the next week. So this isn't one of those classes that you're going to want to go ahead and just run through it. I don't think it would make a lot of sense to you to do it that way. Just kind of take it week by week. But other than that, pretty neat class. It's a little different. More math. There's some math to it. Using computers and looking up stuff in books, and some of that stuff people don't love, but it's a part of what we do. So hopefully we can get you comfortable with it. We're not going to make you a professional at it. I'm not the best at it, but I'm learning. It's not my strong suit, but it's I'm getting better at it, and it just comes with practice. If I was doing a lot more installation than I was change outs and service, then this would be something I would be using a lot. I don't do that a lot, and so I'm a little rusty on it, but that's why it helps me to go through it with you all, and I learn from it as much as you all do. So that's what we're going to do this semester. So just kind of hang tight, work through the first module, the introductory module. You might look through the first one or two just to kind of get an idea where we're going, but like I said, I wouldn't go too much farther than that. We'll see you in class.